If you follow this series from episode 1 and peradventure you implemented everything that I have been teaching, then you must have already done something most entrepreneurs never do. Why did I say that? Because if you actually implemented everything, you're not going to just focus on tactics. Instead, you're going to build framework. Because from episode 1 all the way to episode 11, you've learned about clarity, about positioning, you've learned about authority, about building offers, setting up your content system, you've learned about advertising with purpose, about demand amplification. And last week, you learned about profit optimization. And each of these steps, of course, they are built on the previous step. So by now, you should have understood how to generate attention and how to turn that attention into demand. Of course, you should have understood how to turn demand into revenue. But today, in this episode, we are talking about the final level, the OG level of being an oversubscribed brand. Because in reality, there is a real difference between just running a business that is even making you profit and actually owning a position in the market. Yes, many businesses actually operate and they operate profitably, but only few businesses actually dominate the market. Only a few become the name that people remember in their mind. Yes, only a few become the default option when anybody thinks about an outcome or about the problem that they have. Only a few becomes the obvious choice. And when you're among that few that becomes the obvious choice, everything simply changes. Marketing becomes easier. Sales conversions become shorter. Traffic and clients arrive to your landing page with trust already established. Why? Because the market have already decided who you are. And that, my friend, is the power of market dominance, which I'll be talking about in today's episode of the Oversubscribed Challenge podcast. So let me begin this episode, which is market dominance. Let me begin it by talking about why market remembers just a few brands among thousands of brands selling the same kind of offer. And there's a psychological principle that actually explains this. And that's that human beings cannot actually remember unlimited options, even if they've seen unlimited options before in their lifetime. Our brains simplify complexity by creating some mental shortcuts. So when people face a particular problem, they don't merely scan the entire market. Instead, they remember a few options. They remember a few brands that actually stand out, that they have clarity about, and that applies in every industry. Just think about it. When you think about electric vehicle, you want to buy electric vehicle, only a few brands immediately come to your mind. When someone thinks about buying a sportswear or a footwear, a few brands clearly dominate your mental space. All right. If you're thinking about buying smartphones, you want to replace your smartphone, only a few brands will dominate your mental space. Of course, there are many brands that produce smartphone, but only a few will you remember to actually choose from. Now, it's not because these companies are the only ones producing these products. Instead, it's because they own a mental territory. All right. They have established a clear identity in the mind of the market. And once that identity is established, something powerful happens. The brand becomes the reference point. And from then on, other businesses get compared to those brands. That is dominance, not necessarily controlling everything, but shaping the perception in the market. The question is, how do you get to that point where you have market dominance? So one of the fastest way to reach that position is through category ownership. You have to get to the point where your brand is associated with that category. You see, most businesses describe themselves in extremely broad ways. So if they're in marketing, they may describe themselves as, we are a marketing agency, we are a coach, we are consultants. Now that is very broad, especially if I already have so many big fishes in the red ocean of marketing, all right? Because there are so many leaders out there in marketing. Look, so many coaches, so many consultants. So if you just call yourself a consultant like everyone, nobody thinks about you. Nobody remember coach and consultant and thinks about you because you have not yet identified yourself. You have not yet decided you want to serve a specific audience that will see you as their category leader. Your broad description has placed you inside crowded categories, and crowded categories force competition because you are competing with people who have already established their brand, who have already dominated the market. Then they'll be comparing you with those people who have achieved dominance. What you want to do instead is not to be in that red ocean. What you want to do is to find a starving subset of that category that is underserved, that the leaders of that category are not really focusing on. You want to focus on this subset of that category. It must be a starving category people who are hungry, who really want to be served. That means they have big problem and they have the big money to actually solve their problem, that is to buy your offer, but nobody is thinking about them. So you want to carve out your own sub-niche, your own category out of the broader market, and then laser focus all your attention on these people, right? And that is how the dominant brand began in the first place. They didn't begin by serving the whole market, right? When you dominate that category and you are known as the king, then you have all the finances, all the resources, everything you need to actually compete in the broader market. But you must be known for one thing first, as the king, as a leader, as the owner of that specific category. When you focus on this, having specific audience that you are serving, rather than saying we help businesses with marketing, now you already have a specific audience. You have a specific outcome. You have a specific solution to this specific audience. All right. So instead of saying we help businesses with marketing, as a brand, you can say we help consultants build authority-driven marketing systems that actually attract premium clients. So when anybody thinks about premium clients, and these people are consultants and they want authority-driven marketing, they want to be seen as authority in the market. They want to be seen as people that are premium clients you actually come to. When they think about who would help them in that marketing, they think about a brand. And gradually, you are building dominance if you will laser focus on serving this category of the market. And gradually, the market begins to associate the specific results to your brand. And the more people experiences the problem, the more they desire the results, your brand becomes a natural solution. Your brand becomes the reference point. And as you scale and as you go deep and as you laser focus, everybody begins to associate your brand with that specific problem or outcome that they actually want. This is how you quickly grow your brand and become the category king, by ensuring your marketing, every messaging is about that specific niche until you conquer that niche. That, my friend, is what is called category ownership. You have to conquer that category. Let everyone that's playing in that category, the brands, the vendors, everyone should recognize you as the leader of that category. It doesn't mean that you are inventing a completely new industry. No, you are carving out an industry out of the existing industry that already has people that actually want to buy from you. So all you need to do is to clearly define your space enough so that the market understands where you belong. And when your category is clear, when people can really see this is where you stand, this is what you offer them, this is the results they will get when they buy from you, then you're going to have lesser competition. In fact, you become the reference point. And if they're going to compare you, they will compare you with those who are coming afterwards. In fact, you become the industry leader if you are the first to serve that hungry market, especially if you are the first to actually gain mind share in that market. Now, this leads me to where I want to talk about this myth that many people have, right? Many people, instead of focusing on the audience, the hungry audience they want to serve, focusing on how to serve them, focusing on how to be the reference point to this audience, instead, many brands focus mainly on the products, all right? It is good to have the best products, but in entrepreneurship, the best products does not automatically win. They believe that if you have the best products, people would buy from you. Is true only in the context that people know that it is the best product. So people have to know, and knowing means they have to be clear about what that product offers them that other products would not offer them. So in reality, the market would reward the clearest products. So it is the offer that has been explained clearly to the market is what the market would reward, not necessarily the best one. The market will not know the best one unless you clearly explain to them how your offer is the best in the first place. So if you do a good job in creating very great products, then you must go all in ensuring that the market clearly understands what your offer is about. So if you must succeed in the market, it's not enough to have the best product or the best service. 10 people can be offering the same services, right? And there could be 2 of them that they offer the best service, but every one of them can claim we deliver excellent results. If everybody is talking, we deliver excellent results, and the best brands, all right, the 2 best brands among them also say the same thing, we deliver excellent results, what would the audience think? The audience would think they're all the same. They're all saying the same thing, we deliver excellent results. But if one of those best brands, best service brands, actually communicate its solution in a way that is extremely easy to understand, communicate its solution in the way that the clients believe that this brand understands my pain, this brand understands my problem, this brand understands where I'm going to, then the brand becomes easier to remember. And in the crowded market, memory is power. People recommend what they remember. So you want to create a memory in the mind of your audience through your messaging. Your messaging should be clear enough that people understand it. Your messaging should get people familiar already with the brand and with the product, even though they've not yet bought the product. What I'm saying in essence is that your messaging should be very clear. Clarity spreads faster than complexity. You don't have to sound like you're a PhD student. No, you have to talk to your audience like you're talking to a 5-year-old in a way that is so very clear. Your audience can explain your positioning and your offer to others that didn't even see the ad in the first place. And if you watched my episode on position, this is why positioning matters so much. It's not about exaggeration. Your position is not about exaggeration, all right? It's about being clear. It's about explaining who you are serving, the result you are getting them, the mechanism that you are using to get the result that differentiates you from other brands outside there. This is how your brand makes your value very obvious. And when your value becomes obvious to the market, your brand becomes easier to trust, and trust accelerates demand. Another powerful way dominant brands strengthen their position is actually through intellectual properties. Now, in business, intellectual property does not always mean patents. Many times it often means your frameworks, your systems, your methods, the things that only you could have created, the things that represent your unique approach, your unique mechanism, the way only you could have done it. Just think about how many successful experts have built recognizable ideas. They create named systems, named frameworks, named processes, and these ideas becomes part of their brand identity. So instead of saying I teach marketing, all right, they rather say I teach authority demand system. They put a name to it that when people hear it, they remember the brand that owns that name. Instead of saying I help you acquire clients, no, they could say I teach the 5-step client acquisition framework. Now their knowledge becomes structured, and structured knowledge is easier to remember. Not only easier to remember, it's easier to teach and it's easier to share. And over a long period of time, these frameworks becomes intellectual assets. People associate that frameworks to you because in the first place, you created the frameworks. It is your intellectual property, and you can even trademark it so that it's not just your intellectual property because that's what business people say, but legally it is now your intellectual property. And if you do this differentiates your brand and it reinforces your authority. And when people repeat your frameworks consistently, of course, your influence will spread without any additional effort from your part. And this, my friend, is leverage. And with that leverage, of course, people begin to associate your brand with that particular frameworks, with that particular system, with that particular intellectual property. That is how you begin to dominate your markets. Now, as you do this, you must also understand the place of consistency. Now, as you do this consistently, as you share your intellectual property, as you build your frameworks, as you share this, gradually you begin to build authority, especially if you do it consistently, because authority would not appear overnight. Authority compounds over time. People begin to look up to you. People begin to use your frameworks. They begin to use your system. They begin to reference your brand and your personal brand also as the reference point, all right? When they encounter your problem, when they have a desire, when they have an outcome they want to achieve that is specific to what only you could have provided or what you have established yourself as a brand that provides, then they look up to you. You have built authority, but it is built over a long period of time. So every piece of content you publish adds another layer. Every insight you share strengthens your credibility. Every client story reinforces your expertise, and you want to keep at it over a long period of time. There's no quitting here. Many entrepreneurs quit too early because they do not see the immediate dominance. You share your content, you publish, you share client testimonials. It looks like nobody cares about what you have to say, but you have to go back to the beginning. Are you positioning yourself very well? Are you serving a specific niche? You have a specific framework system to serve them with a unique mechanism. Are you giving them a unique outcome that they really desire already? All right. Is this audience really hungry? Do they have a big problem that you can actually solve? Can you give them that big outcome? All right. So if you have settled that, then don't quit because you've not achieved dominance immediately. You have to continue at it. Authority works like interest in a bank account. All right. In the beginning, the progress may feel slow, but over time, accumulation becomes very powerful. All right. Eventually, the market will begin to recognize patterns. They're going to eventually notice your consistency. They will see your clarity, and they're going to see your results. And when that recognition reaches a tipping point, perception shifts. Suddenly, you're no longer another creator. Instead, you become a trusted voice. People begin to trust the information that you provide because you provided an information and they got results. You say you're going to follow the system, you follow the system and you got results. Your client followed that system, they got results. Somebody else followed the system, the framework, they got results. Then you become trusted, and trusted voices naturally attract opportunity. People have seen you gain results for these people. People have seen your information work. They've seen the transformation consistently over a long period of time. They naturally gravitate towards you because you've proven that you are the trusted voice, you are the authority in that category. Now, one other thing you should know about dominant brands, which I think you want to become, right, is that dominant brands are intentional about visibility. We have not so much dwelt on visibility in this series, but in the next series, I'm going to focus on visibility. Dominant brands are intentional about visibility. They don't try to be everywhere. Visibility is not just showing up everywhere, saying different things, just going viral about anything. No, instead, dominant brands focus on places where their ideal audiences actually pay attention. So that means that their visibility has strategy, because visibility without strategy will just create noise. You would have the attention of people who are not your audience. Yeah, they may follow you, you may go viral, and everybody will be happy about your business. But the question is, does this translate to the bottom line? All right. Are the people following you? Are they buying? Are they your ideal audience? You don't want visibility without good strategy. Visibility without good strategy, like I said earlier, would create noise. All right. It is strategic visibility that actually creates influence, the kind of influence you want to have over people within your category, not just over anyone that has no business to do with your brand. So that is why strong brands, they focus on a few key channels. They focus on their messaging and they master them. They master pushing out their messaging on those channels and ensuring that the messaging saturates in that channel. So instead of spreading their energy tying across every platform, instead they concentrate their efforts where their message can spread most effectively. So yes, consistency in the right places would build recognition, and recognition would build familiarity. And what happens when you have familiarity? Familiarity would build trust, and over time, this visibility turns into reputation. And of course, what is branding without reputation? Branding is the reputation of a brand. All right, good brand perception is the reputation of your brand, and that reputation become one of the strongest assets in your business. Is that reputation will make you actually dominate the market. So people begin to remember your brand for that outcome, for that problem they want to solve, for that emotion your brand stands for. There is an emotion, there is a status. When people want to show that they are very rich, ultra rich, there is a kind of smartphone they buy, there is a kind of vehicle they buy. When people want to conserve their money, conserve their fuel, when they want to buy affordable vehicle that don't get spoiled, there is a kind of vehicle they buy. All right. So you have to define what is the emotion, what is the status, what is the perceived value people would have when they buy your offer. Now, as your influence grows, your responsibility should grow with the influence. And that's because dominant brands often tend to shape how people think. They influence people's decisions, they guide people's behavior, and that influence should be handled carefully. Building authority is not just about growth for your business. As a business with good ethic, especially as a business owner who believes in God, who believes in the good of society, influence, building your business, building authority is also about stewardship. So the more people trust you, the more responsibility you have to actually serve them honestly. And if you have integrity, some people honestly, is going to protect your long-term dominance. Because trust, once broken, is actually difficult to rebuild. And the stronger brands understand this. They build influence with humility. They grow their platforms while remaining grounded in their purpose. They are laser focused about where they want to go to, not carried away. So my friend, at this point, the most important question then becomes, what do you want to be known for? Not just this year, but 5 years from now. Because the brands that dominate their market rarely drift into that position of authority. No, they design it. They choose the problem they want to solve, and they choose the audience they want to serve. They choose the transformation they want to represent, and they consistently reinforce that identity through everything that they create. Whether it's through their content or through their offers, through their messaging, or through their systems, over time, the market begins to associate them with that transformation that they're actually providing to the markets. And of course, that association becomes their strategic advantage. Now back to you. Over these 12 weeks, we've walked through a journey of building a modern digital business. You've seen how clarity leads to authority and how authority leads to demand. You've seen how demand leads to profits and how profits create the foundation for dominance. But my friend, the real lesson is this: businesses sell products, but brands shape the perception of people. When you shape perception consistently enough, your brand becomes the obvious choice. And when you become the obvious choice, competition stops feeling overwhelming because the market already understands your value. And that, my friend, is the power of strategic position. That is the power of authority. And that is the long-term reward of building a brand with intention. So as we move forward, don't just think about the next sale. No, that's short-term thinking. Instead, think about the position you are building in the mind of the market. Because when the position is strong enough, demand will follow naturally and the right clients would start looking for you. If you enjoyed this episode, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and watch out for the next episode next week.